ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृद्यन्तस्तुतय भद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भागवत्ये उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 25. Hare Purakarna गुणाभिधानेन विजृम्भमाणया भक्त्या हया संज्ञ अस भक्त्या हया संग सद असते अनंतमानि तया निर्गुणे ब्रह्मणि चाज्ञा सारथिः. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The devotee should gradually increase the culture of devotional service by constant hearing of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These pastimes are like ornamental decorations on the ears of devotees. By rendering devotional service and transcending the material qualities, one can easily be fixed in transcendence in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. This verse is especially mentioned to substantiate the devotional process of hearing the subject matter. A devotee does not like to hear anything other than subjects dealing with the spiritual activities or the pastimes of Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can increase our propensity for devotional service by hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from realized souls. The more we hear from realized souls, the more we make advancement in our devotional life. The more we advance in devotional life, the more we become detached from the material world. The more we become detached from the material world, as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the more we increase in attachment for the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, a devotee who actually wants to make progress in devotional service and go back to Godhead must lose interest in sense enjoyment and associating with persons who are after money and sense gratification. This is the advice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. निष्किञ्चन्यास्य भगवत् भजनोन्मुखस्य परं परं जिगामिसोर् भावसागरस्य सन्दर्शनं विषयायिनाम् अथायोषितां च हा हन्ता हन्ता विषा भक्षणन्तो अपि असाधु. Charitamrita Madhya Lila 11.8. The word Brahmini used in this verse is commented upon by the impersonalist or professional reciters of Bhagavatam, who are mainly advocates of caste system by demonic birthright. They say that Brahmini means the impersonal Brahman, but they cannot conclude this with reference to the context of the words Bhaktya and Guna Abhidhanena. According to impersonalists, there are no transcendental qualities in the impersonal Brahman. Therefore, we should understand that Brahmani means in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as admitted by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, wherever the word Brahma is used, it must refer to Krishna, not to impersonal Brahman effulgence. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwan iti Shabdaye. Shabdaye Bhagavatam 1.2.11. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan can all be taken in total as Brahman. But when there is a reference to the word Bhakti or remembrance of the transcendental qualities, this indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not the impersonal Brahman. Verse 26. Yadaratir Brahmani Nashtiki Puma Nacharyavan Jnana Viragra Ramhasa Dahatya Viryam Hridayam Jiva Kosham Panchatmakam Yoni Mi Vothito To Agnirhi. Translation. Upon becoming fixed in his attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the grace of the spiritual master and by awakening knowledge and detachment, the living entity situated within the heart of the body and covered by the five elements burns up his material surrounding exactly as fire arising from wood burns the wood itself. Purport: it is said that both the Jivatma, the individual soul, and the Paramatma live together within the heart. In the Vedic version, it is stated, Hradi He, I am Atma, the soul and super soul both live within the heart. The individual soul is liberated when it comes out of the material heart or cleanses the heart to make it spiritualized. The example given here is very appropriate. Yonim ivotito agnihi. Agni or fire comes out of wood and by it the wood is completely destroyed. Similarly, when a living entity increases the attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to be considered like fire. If blazing fire is visible by its exhibition of heat and light, similarly, when the living entity within the heart becomes enlightened with full spiritual knowledge and detached from the material world, he burns up his material covering of five elements earth, water, fire, air, and sky and becomes free from the five kinds of material attachments, namely ignorance, false egoism, attachment to material world, envy, and absorption in material consciousness. Therefore, Panchatmakam, as mentioned in this verse, refers to either the five elements or the five coverings of the material contamination. When these are all burned into ashes by blazing fire of knowledge and detachment, one is fixed firmly in the devotional service of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and advances one's attraction for Krishna, but in the spiritual master's instruction, the five coverings of the living entity cannot be removed from the material heart. The living entity is centered within the heart, and to take him away from the heart is to liberate him. This is the process one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, and by his instruction, increase one's knowledge in devotional service, become attached from the material world, and thus become liberated. An advanced devotee, therefore, does not live within the material body but within his spiritual body. Just as a dry coconut lives detached from the coconut husk, even though within the husk. The pure devotee's body is therefore called Chinmaya Sharira, spiritualized body. In other words, a devotee's body is not connected with material activities, and as such, a devotee is always liberated. Brahma Bhutaya Kalpate, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Srila Rupa Goswami also confirms this. Iha yasya hare dasye karmana manasa gira nikhalasya apa avasthatu avasthasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. Whatever his condition may be, one who is engaged fully with his body, mind, and speech in the service of the Lord is liberated even within this body. End of purport. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I seek the blessing of all the assembled Vaishnavas so that I can give today's lecture to purify myself. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm going to summarize from a lecture given by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Please pardon me if I make any mistakes or add my own interpretation to the summary. So Sanat Kumar is the speaker of this verse, and for past several verses, we have been reading about Sanat Kumar's instructions to Emperor Prithu. In the previous chapter, we saw how Prithu Maharaj addressed his citizens that they can achieve perfection of life by glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, in uh, in this chapter, we saw in the earlier verses, like verse 15, that the king is saying to the Kumaras that people like you who are saintly personalities just travel to enlighten people. And then king asked the Kumaras for guidance. Even though the king was well versed in the philosophy and had previously instructed his citizens about what their duty should be, king still asked them, please give us guidance as to how we can achieve the ultimate goal of life. And Kumaras were very pleased with this inquiry. Just like Shukadev Goswami was very pleased when Parikshit Maharaj inquired what one should do when who is about to die. We also see then in third canto, Kapiladev instructed his mother Devahuti because she asked a question. Um, she said, "You are like an axe who can cut the tree of entanglement for me. So please enlighten me how I can become from the circle of birth and death." Similarly, over here, we see Kumaras are very pleased when they heard the inquiry from Prithu Maharaj. They said, you are well versed in philosophy, still you are asking us. So this is very glorious. And then they proceeded to describe various important instructions as to how one can progress spiritually. Now, continuing on the theme, um, we are discussing how to achieve the goal of life, how to free oneself from the cycle of birth and death. Sanat Kumars say that devotees should gradually increase the culture of devotional service by constantly hearing of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. An important point to note in this translation is the word Muhu Hare Muhus Tat Para Karna Pura. So Hare Muhus Tat Karna Pura, this is mentioned in the verse 25. So Prabhupada translates the word muhus to mean constantly. So what Sanat Kumar is saying that the devotee who wishes to make spiritual progress should constantly hear about the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is important to understand because many of us or some of us think that we should chant 16 rounds and then we don't have to do until next morning. And the rest of time we can engage in whatever we like. So that is not good. Prabhupada used to tell a story. He said when he was in college, in Scottish College, Calcutta, he had a professor who would tell him that your goal should always be to get higher marks than what you really want. So let's say in the exam, you need 50% score to pass. But when you set your goal should be, I'm going to get 70% or 80%. And then you can hope to get 50%. But if you just hope, oh, I'll get 50% and try for 50%, then you will not even pass the exam. So Prabhupada gave this example. And similarly, Sanat Kumar is also confirming this verse that our goal should not be to just chant 16 rounds, but our goal should be to chant the holy name all the time. That's our eventual goal. So he's saying that one should constantly hear the glories of Supreme Personality of God. And then he says further that these pastimes are like the ornamental decoration of the ears of devotees. Just like in material society, we dress ourselves, we use ornaments, jewelry to decorate the body. So what is the ornamentation of a devotee? As the words explain, the ornamentation of a devotee is to constantly hear the glories of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this is not the first verse of Bhagavatam that emphasizes this point. If you read Bhagavatam, you will notice that several times these important points get repeated again and again by different devotees. Prabhupada discusses this point in the purport of Bhagavad Gita also. He says repetition is necessary So, just like in the first canto, a similar message has been conveyed. This content of this verse is almost identical to content of the verse in the first canto. That the holy name of the Lords are always very sweet, very precious. And by hearing holy name, one can cleanse the um, abhadrani, cleanses our heart. So this is the verse we tell every day before starting the class. Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya. Right? So all the things that are abhadrani, that are unnecessary, they get cleansed from our heart. So Sanat Kumar is saying that the group of devotees should constantly hear and increase the culture of devotional service. So what is being emphasized here is that if we wish to make spiritual advancement, then we wish to get attached to process of hearing. If we just want to stay uh, constant, we want to progress spiritually, then we need to follow this advice. Now, Sanat Kumar is emphasizing that in even in not only in spiritual life, even in material life, we see the same thing. For example, if you do a job, you expect your salary to increase every year. If we don't get an increase 1 year, we are not going to be happy, right? So people judge the economic progress of the world by seeing how the living standards are going up, how your income is going up, how the education levels are going up. So similarly, on the spiritual path also, our goal should be to make spiritual progress. We can't just stagnate, and just do whatever the bare minimum is. So this is what the point here. Now, now here we also see that Maharaj gives example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he traveled to South India. So, but he was so influential. Everybody was so uh, impressed by his teachings that many started following the path of Vaishnavism. And in major temples of South India, even when you go today, you will see that Lord Chaitanya's pictures and plaques are shown that he visited this location, he did this. So he met a devotee called Purma Brahman, and he was a householder and he received the Lord very well. And then he expressed a desire that I want to travel with you. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that you don't have to travel with me. You will never separate from me, and I will never separate from you if you follow what I tell you. And amongst the various things, the 5 point the 5 points that he mentioned, one of the points was to regularly read Bhagavad Gita. He said he must daily chant the holy name and read the Bhagavad Gita. So this is the basis on which our acharyas has made the point and the rule in that in every ISKCON temple there must be reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita every day. And we should understand that Lord Chaitanya's words cannot be false. So if we also follow this advice, then we will never separate from him and he will never separate from us. So this is the instructions. Now, similarly we see the when he met Ramanand Roy on the banks of Godavari River when he was traveling to South India. So Lord asked him several questions, and somebody may say that isn't this strange? Why the Lord is asking questions from his devotee? It should be the other way around. The devotee should ask questions from the Lord, isn't it? But Lord is also anxious to glorify his devotees, just like devotees are anxious to glorify the Lord. Um, and so similarly, we see Bhishma Dev when he was getting ready to leave his body, Lord was there along with Pandavas, and he asked the Pandavas to learn about the bhakti process from him, and that's when he spoke the Vishnu Sahasranamam on the bed of arrows, and he instructed Yudhishthir how to achieve the goal of life. So similarly, Lord is asking Ramananda Rai several questions. So one of the important question was, Lord asked him that what is the most important object of the worship? And Ramanand Roy responded, the chief worshipable object is the holy name of Radha and Krishna. So Hare Krishna Mahamantra is our most worshipable object. That is the key to our spiritual advancement. So uh, Prabhupada also explained the ninefold process of devotional service. And when we talk about ninefold process of devotional service, we hear that the key is Shravana. That is the first one. So scriptures talk about not just about hearing, they also talk about attentive hearing. And by attentive hearing, attentively hearing the Bhagavatam, we can attain, we can also learn how to attentively hear the holy name, the qualities and pastime, and make spiritual progress. Because if we hear attentively, then the cleansing process in the heart is a lot faster. So, attentive hearing is recommended. Now, we have seen that sometimes people fall asleep when they attend class, or even when they are chanting, they fall asleep. But we will never see anybody falling asleep when they are eating very tasty food, or when they are playing a game, or they are having fun, they are enjoying. So why is that? So we understand that people do not have the taste. It's like the jaundice situation. When you have jaundice, you do not like the taste of even sugarcane juice. You don't feel that it's sweet. So similarly, we have this disease condition which is caused by avidya, and we are not able to taste the um, the the nectar of these instructions or nectar of holy name, and that's why we fall asleep. So we need to cure this disease by being attentive and developing this taste, and by this we will achieve real spiritual progress. So there are more points to cover. It was a very wonderful lecture, long lecture, but unfortunately we are out of time. So I'll send my notes to the next speaker. Maybe they can cover tomorrow. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo